Good hello and welcome to TTTBT2. Here's a shape that's doing a thing. And look, it has a glow in it. Typically when working with effects, you need to go into render view to see any effect that's being applied. But there is a render preview node now. By plugging that into an effect system, you can see it pre-renders down in the timeline and allows you to continue working and drawing with most any effect fully in view. Keep in mind that render time of changing from red to green will change depending on what you're trying to preview. Have you made a gradient and you want it to spread across several different parts and have it be shared and not look dumb? Just get your gradient working correctly once, select that shape, and down here in Tool Properties there's this icon. This is a Store Gradient button. Press it and nothing will happen. But that's because it's saved in the background. When you return to your paint bucket now and press, it's not going to work. But that's because over here, this is the Summon Stored Gradient. So when this switch becomes activated, all your gradient dreams are fulfilled. For Harmony Premium users, display nodes are a thing to take advantage of. Here's my grid and glowy thing occupying the same space. Well, the display node simply shows whatever happens to be connected into it. The added advantage of this is you can bring out more than one display node and have them rigged up however you like. Up in the top taskbar, you can right-click and activate the display toolbar. Here you give it a drop-down list of all the displays that are available in your network, and you can jump to viewing just any at a given time. Under the Advanced tab of Preferences, there's a checkbox called Advanced Display. If you turn this on, your camera and timeline views will be given their own independent display selection boxes. So that means I can be looking at whatever is in display 1, but looking at the timeline of whatever is in display 2. There can be a number of times where this is useful, particularly if you want to see your entire scene, but there could be hundreds of layers in the works, just creating this huge mess in your timeline. It allows you to isolate just the part that you're currently working on. Another quick node trick is when you've picked something up and you're moving it about, when you hold the spacebar down, it'll go into panning, and when you let go, it'll stay grabbed on. Take this one here, floating out in the middle of space, for example. I can get it back over to the middle by just doing these ones. That might seem dumb, but it's useful, okay? Okay? Trust me. So you're drawing away, having a grand old time, but you can't quite seem to get ends to match up, or maybe the thickness isn't consistent. This is when doing cleanup or inking with the pencil tool, because you're using a stroke, right? Maybe you're also struggling to have the ends meet, always leaving gaps and causing paint bucketing problems. Well, this might just solve your problem. The Line Builder mode in Tool Properties with the pencil tool selected, there's this one of a hammer. Flip that switch, and when you start and end a line next to each other, they will connect and make themselves as seamless as possible. Note this thin line here, if I start off with a thick line, it will even itself out to try and keep it smooth. These annoying cornery paint bucket issues. This is caused by lines not quite meeting up. If you activate Show Strokes mode, usually by pressing K on the keyboard, you can see gaps that don't quite meet, indicated by these yellow tips. Under the paint bucket tool, there is a gap closer tool. Simply swipe across any gap and the edges will be closed. Look at all these layers. What a mess. I just want to work on the important thing. Fortunately, in the very bottom left of the window, there is this icon. If you touch on that, there is Selection Only mode. This will show only whatever is currently selected. So if I now select the important thing, it will take me to that layer and show only the selected layers inside the timeline. This is one of my favorite ways of isolating the current task to be front and center and get rid of everything that is not. I'm just here paint bucketing my dude, and comes to doing his eyes, and how can I tell how do I know that if that's actually working? Oh, I know. I'll open up the swatch and I'll just make it a shade of pink. That's much better. Now I can paint bucket all my whites, and then when I'm done, just put it back up to the top again. Oh yeah. I think Harmony's biggest drawback is the lack of align and distribute tools. There are some snapping options, but they're not too great. This especially comes into play when it comes to creating a circle that's going to be animated spinning like a wheel. There is, however, a compromise. To pull it off, open a new layer. In the drawing view, activate the grid. On the shape making tools, like the circle, there are a couple of snapping options. One of them is snap to grid. So this is how you create a circle that will tween perfectly from the center. Hover over the middle and you see that the cursor will snap to 0.00. and you can bring out your circle from there. It's going to snap to a portion of the grid. It may not be the size that you want it, but that's okay. Go back to the selection tool, and with snapping turned off, as long as you have Alt and Shift selected, it will now free transform from the center. Most important thing is that when it comes to animating this, the transform controls will see the middle and rotate from the center. Here in the drawing view talking about grids, let's talk about grids. The default grid is a filled chart, which isn't even squares. They are a ratio of the screen. It is possible, however, to get a proper square grid, which is much more useful for drawing purposes. Along the top of the drawing view, right click, make sure drawing view is open, but go down to customize as well. Inside the customize list, have a drag down until you find one called square grid, and press the right arrow to pop it over to this right hand side. So in my options up here, as well as the turn grid on and off toggle, I also have the choice of making it a 16 by 16 field chart and also a square grid. And that has been TTT2. If you have any personal tips and tricks for Toon Boom, leave them in the comments section. Let's help each other out. Hope you learned something new, have some fun, and I'll see you in the next one.